Hello and welcome to the Power of Passive Investing. We have a comeback guest today, Mike Zane. Mike and I have been in touch um, for a while, and we talked about the topics and the business and what he and his team are providing to their clients. And we found this niche that I think is requiring a lot of attention, and people are not paying enough attention to it. Without giving up what we're going to talk about, Mike, welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Alina. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me back.
Of course, of course. And for those of our listeners that are brand new to you and haven't met you, why don't you give them a little bit bio about yourself?
Sure, I'm happy to. So, uh, so I'm the managing partner and the founder of LexCraft Advisors. We're a CFO services firm that works strictly with private equity real estate. Um, our services fall into three buckets: accounting, corporate finance, and investor relations. We also do advisory work, kind of on a one-off basis. Um, our client base it varies. I mean, we're working with small and middle market private equity shops. Um, Within that, it's a mix of syndicators raising equity for one-off acquisitions. We also work with fund clients in that space. Uh, kind of adjacent to that, we also do a good bit of work with family offices that have a focus on investing in commercial real estate. So on a personal level, I founded this business almost 5 years ago now. I was a management consultant prior to that at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and prior to that, I was in real estate finance at JP Morgan. So, what you said just now resonated. I basically saw a need and an opportunity in the marketplace to help small and mid-sized sponsors take a whole lot of workload off their plate. Our goal is to free up the clients we work with so that they can go out and focus on growing their business, whether that's focusing on deal sourcing or raising capital. We want to give them back the time and frankly give them the tools that they need to do that. Uh, so that's one goal. The other goal that we have every time we engage with a new client is we're really looking out for them from a risk perspective. And by that, I mean an operational risk perspective. You see a lot of uh, situations, especially in the small and middle market of private equity real estate, where things just aren't quite being done the way that they should in a back office sense. And our goal is to bring what we think is a financial operation package that really is something you would typically see at a much larger shop. And our goal is to unpack that for our small and mid-sized clients.
Mike, I like how you're filling the gap and the need for small and mid-sized uh, businesses, or I should say syndication businesses that are in need of the institutional quality financial work. And before we dive into specific use cases and the type of work that you guys are doing, let's clarify for our audience first, what is the difference between your accounting work versus corporate finance?
Sure. The way that we think about accounting work is that it revolves around, um, for a syndication client, we may be doing property accounting. Uh, Oftentimes, we'll be doing corporate accounting. So, you may have a general partner entity or something to that effect. And then for our fund clients, we'll do fund accounting. So that service revolves around, uh, your everything from your property level bookkeeping up through your controller services, where we're doing things like managing a monthly close process, um, doing your typical bank reconciliations. We're managing the chart of accounts within the accounting system. Um, and oftentimes we're preparing procedure documentation so that our clients have something in hand that they can kind of distribute among their employees, their stakeholders, to demonstrate that they have a solid handle on the accounting front, and so that everybody can understand kind of the approach and how we're managing that. So that's the accounting side of what we do. The finance side is mostly FP&A type of work, financial planning and analysis. So this is stuff like, your budgeting, your cash flow forecasting. So we will help our clients do forecasts, at the property level if that's relevant to them, or at the asset level. We will also help to do the same at the corporate level. So, for instance, we have several clients that are vertically integrated in the sense that they have in-house property management operations running, side by side to the investment business. And so for those clients, uh, it usually becomes an exercise of running budgets at the property level and then sort of rolling that up to build a budget or a forecast at the property management company level. And so that way, a client like that can get insight into what the expected performance is of really the entire business, not just the property portfolio itself. Um, and same for fund clients. We have a fund client right now we're standing up for the first time, and um, it's going to be a matter of kind of forecasting out what the fee revenue might look like to that fund, based on a range of scenarios in terms of what the underlying portfolio might end up looking like over the next 6 or 12 months. So, that'll help them to kind of run their asset management business, especially as they're getting it stood up for the first time.
Awesome. I love it. And I feel like corporate finance and accounting services go hand in hand, but there wouldn't be corporate finance service without doing accounting work first. So that's the fundamental. And even though it reminds me of the good, I mean, of the old days, I wouldn't call them good days, but the times when I used to be an accountant a couple decades ago. But nevertheless, it is still around, and I believe it's one of the things that will never be replaced by AI. We can leverage resources like AI to do the work, but the human must be in charge of this work because of the complexity involved and small details that no AI, the accounting work that you guys are doing. Um, would you please describe for our audience what does accounting entail beyond just regular P&L, profit and loss, trial balance, and general ledger? Like, what kind of work do you do, and how is it different from client to client?
Yeah. So I think the accounting work that we do is interesting and unique in the sense that, two things. One, in order to do real estate accounting, you have to understand both accounting and real estate investment as a discipline. Um, we've had a couple of clients come to us needing help, because they had sort of a generalist, bookkeeper or what have you, working on their financials. And maybe they outgrew that, or maybe that individual just couldn't kind of scale with the client. So, that's the kind of thing where I think that we're able to kind of bridge that, bridge both sides of that. The folks on our team, definitely have the accounting experience and the backgrounds there, but in a sense, I think the thing that I'm looking for, whenever I'm considering bringing somebody on the team is, do you understand real estate investment on a deep level? The benefits we bring to our clients is we bring that combination kind of right out of the gate. Um, so I think in terms of the skill set that we bring, it's unique in that sense. I think that the accounting work that we do, I guess just to level set on that, if it falls into really three categories. So for all of the clients that we're doing accounting work for, we're serving as the controller over their portfolio. So that within that controller service, we could be doing property level accounting. We could be doing, your month end close process, your reconciliations, your classifications, all that sort of stuff. Um, for a couple of our clients who are in this middle market stage, they're looking to scale and they're looking to bring on institutional capital maybe for the first time. We have a couple of clients right now that are clearly outgrowing friends and family money. And so what we're working on for these two shops, document employees and stakeholders, but with others to really garner that level of trust and credibility that they might need in order to take it to the next level. So, I think that's one thing that probably is, again, difficult to find in this area of the market or in this niche. There are other accounting firms out there, but we're coming at this kind of, almost from a consulting perspective as it relates to some of that procedure documentation work that I just talked about. So that's just an added item within our controller suite that we offer to the clients that we work with. Um, Getting back to taking workload off the plate of the sponsors, uh, our other our one other accounting piece that we do on at least on an annual basis, but usually it happens a lot more often is tax and audit coordination. We don't file tax returns as a service, but we coordinate with our clients' CPAs or with their audit firms to ensure the transfer of information, to field questions, and really to be that buffer between the sponsor who's out there trying to build the business day to day and that tax or audit vendor who obviously needs information on a timely basis. So and then really the other couple of things that we're doing, we build a lot of bespoke reporting for our clients. So I'll give you a good example of that. Uh, we have a we have a family office client that holds regular investment committee meetings internally, and so they're sort of meshing investment decisions with discussion around asset management and kind of like portfolio management. So they were in need of a reporting package. They syndicate deals, one off property acquisitions, and it became important for them to have a package that showed property level financial trends across the portfolio, as well as roll up views. Um, you know, so we built in this package, property level financials. We did some trending work. We incorporated some forecasting work into that. It's the kind of thing that you can't get out of any accounting system in a stock reporting fashion. It's something that an analyst on our team sat down, built out according to the specs of the family office, according to the use case that they had for it. And I think it's been valuable for them, and that's the kind of work that we're capable of doing in addition to your core accounting stuff. Um,
I love it. I love it. I think it shows, number one, the initiative on your end, and number two, it helps them with being transparent to their stakeholders, which also reminded me, I read somewhere last week the difference between fractional officer, whether it's CFO or fractional controller, versus a consultant. So fractional executive officer is someone who is ingrained within the company. And even though they may not have all 40 hours built in with the company, regardless whether it's the matter or not, but they're part of the company and they're truly representing what company needs and understand the company needs in full details. Where consultant is someone who's just as a one-off comes in, provides their fancy reporting, charges top dollar. Both you and I worked for Big Four, so we know how that part works, and then leaves without fully understanding the business or understanding what they provided and whether it's going to benefit the company in general. Would you agree with that assumption?
Yeah, I would agree. And in terms of a business model, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to uh, take our team and ingrain them into our client's business.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal is to become a true extension of every client that we work with.
I love that.
So it's the kind of thing where, if a sponsor or a general partner or a fund manager has a question, uh, they have full access to our team to direct that question to the right person. And it's my goal to make sure that they understand the role that everybody on our team plays so that they are comfortable contacting, whoever they need to. So I think from that perspective, it's really what we're looking to do is to build long-term relationships with everybody we work with. So it's definitely not that typical consulting arrangement where you're sort of dropping in the solution and then exiting. Instead, we're trying to build the solutions according to the specs that the client needs, and then manage that as an ongoing service for the long term. So.
That's incredible. Mike, have you had any cases where, while building the solution, when you already been providing the accounting solution to the clients, you were able to uncover some sort of discrepancies or errors or mistakes in their uh, operating business?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we've had a couple of clients who decided to work with us only because, well, I don't know about only, but definitely on the heels of certain issues they were having on the accounting front previously. So, we have a client we've been working with for a couple of years now. It's a shop that syndicates multifamily assets throughout the southeast. Um, they had a they had basically a bookkeeper, a generalist bookkeeper overseeing their accounting system, and I think it became clear to them that the business was sort of outgrowing this individual's capabilities to support. Unfortunately, they let that go a little longer than they should have, and it got to the point where I think it was year end 2023, and they called us and asked if we would help, and I started kind of poking and prodding to understand where they were at, and it turns out that the books had not been looked at for several months.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a case where it was not an isolated transaction that had been done incorrectly. It wasn't fraud. It wasn't anything like that, but rather it was just neglect, really.
Right.
And so, we made the decision that we were going to go in, we were going to help them. Um, and so it was frankly a scramble to get the financials together just for purposes of tax reporting for that fiscal year.
Yeah.
And then coming out of that, there was a longer term sort of cleanup effort that went on for several months to kind of get them up to par, up to standard. And we still work with them today, and we've been able to, once we got through that process, it became more of the I guess you could say plain vanilla, ongoing support role. Um, but I think it's through work like that that not only does the client benefits a lot from having their system cleaned up. I think our team also learns and grows through that process as well. And um, it's unfortunate, but we see a decent bit of that kind of in this small mid-sized segment of the market. You run into stuff like that, and um, so we do what we can.
I like that, Mike. And it's human nature to learn best through pain points and mistakes, unfortunately, and nothing can change that. But in general, the experience you described is reminiscent of acquiring real estate property, where when you acquire it first, at least for us, we're in value add commercial real estate investors, we go through the mass that has been passed over to us by the previous owners, and trying to get sooner rather than later to the point where the property is fully stabilized. And then, as you call it, it becomes more of ongoing plain vanilla management process. But yeah, going through the pains at first and stabilizing the properties, whether it's multifamily or flex or office space, it's usually a challenge. Putting everything together, putting systems together, setting up the financials is a pain. Um, and
I think the other pain point we run into, kind of similar to that, is some clients rely on third-party property managers,
mhm,
um, where in some cases they're doing the property level bookkeeping,
yep.
and so they're issuing reporting to us as the call it controller, overseeing the client's portfolio. So you can run into situations where the accounting work at a property management company is not quite where you would like it to be. It becomes important to run a set of checks and balances on that every month to ensure that your properties are being accounted for as they should. Um, and we've also seen a couple of cases where a sponsor will decide to either move from one third party manager to another for whatever reason. And so then there's this kind of bookkeeping handoff that we have to manage, and that can be difficult. The other thing that can also be a challenge is we had a client that was working with a third party property manager. They were unhappy, putting aside the accounting, they were unhappy with the property management, boots on the ground support that they were getting.
Mhm.
And they decided to stand up their own in-house management operation. And so then it became a matter of intaking the accounting data from that third party, sunsetting manager, if you will, and bringing it in-house and building it out in a property accounting environment of our own. Um, and that's mostly a data quality problem for
Oh
the
yeah,
most, you know,
yeah, it's
accounting abilities vary widely among third party property managers.
very true, very true. So we talked about the accounting piece of your business and the value that you bring to your clients. Let's switch gears and talk about corporate finance, which to me is more exciting because that's where you take the fundamentals that you put together, and now you can use it to do the forecasting and project into the future. Let's dive into that.
Yeah, I think this is one place where unfortunately, the small and middle market segment of private equity real estate is pretty lacking. Uh, I think the capability just isn't there. And frankly, even if a deal sponsor has the ability to do this kind of work, it's very time consuming stuff. So we come at it from the standpoint that we think through that work, we can give our clients the ability to make decisions that their competitors, frankly, probably don't have the same level of insight to make those decisions. And so, and we're in a nice position there because not only are we managing the accounting system, but we're also typically doing the forecasting and the projection. So it's all kind of kept within our team, and we can ensure the quality of the accounting data, and we can ensure that the forecast, the budget, whatever it might be, is being built exactly according to the business need that particular shop has. Um, so the work that we will do there is, like I said before, I mean, it's often a matter of projecting out performance at the asset level. We'll typically do that, 12-month look forward. Um, we we make it our business to get a really strong understanding of the client's cost structure. And by that, I mean the cost structure at the asset level. So, in other words, if I call up an analyst on our team and I ask them, hey, uh, what did taxes and insurance look like at 123 Main Street, both last year and this year? They'll be able to tell me the answer, and then we'll be able to decide, what do we think that's going to look like next year? Is it a 3 or 4% increase, or is there some sort of reassessment going on? And we can work with the team to understand what that might look like. Um, so it's a matter of gaining that deep level of understanding. I think that allows us to do uh, it allows us to fully assume ownership over the projections that we're building. A typical accounting firm might apply, some growth rate to some expenses, but we would be in a position to know that taxes at property A over here are undergoing a reassessment or whatever it might be. Um, so we'll get to the point where we're able to go through property level budgeting for the sponsor's portfolio. Depending on what the business structure is, we may roll those up to the general partner entity. If there's fee revenue coming from the properties that might be based on EGI or something like that, or equity under management. Uh, and then we can do the same for an in-house property management operation as well to forecast fee revenue there. The same idea applies. We get familiar with the corporate level cost structure, and we look to bake that in as accurately as we possibly can. And then the typical cadence there is that we're making updates to these forecasts on a quarterly basis. So every quarter we'll sit down with the team. We'll probably look to do kind of like a budgeted to actual comparison. We'll look to understand, where was the variance and why, and, kind of iterate through that and tighten it up quarter over quarter as we go. And I think the most interesting part of the work, which you alluded to before, is the decision making process. So
Yeah,
we've been through enough of this sort of forecasting work where we're able to say to the client, hey, you know you're running I don't know, an industrial portfolio that's based in the Carolinas. Why is your insurance expense running so much above these three other clients that we work with in the same asset class in a similar market, um, and kind of encourage clients to think about if there's an opportunity, to, in this case, to cut out some cost or maybe to get a quote from a different insurance company or something like that. Um, so I think we it's always my goal to bring that perspective to everybody that we work with.
of course.
Um, And then if there's a particular area where we can do a little bit more analysis for the client to help them come to a decision on something, obviously we're happy to do that too.
Amazing. I love it. Mike, in general, what would you say differentiates your firm and the services you provide to your clients versus other firms in the industry that offer similar services?
Yeah, I mean there are other property accounting services out there, and services focused on accounting for real estate, and that's great. That's all well and good. I think where we're coming at this from is there are two important factors here that I think help us deliver some extra value to everybody we work with. I think first of all, it's that initiative to really get ingrained with our clients and their businesses. Um, we want to understand kind of like where they're steering the ship,
Mm-hmm.
in the next week, the next month, the next quarter, the next year. And that really helps us to help them. So, it's that deep level of ingrainment I think is really important. I think the other thing that's important is that, um, we're I don't think of our business as a bookkeeping firm or an accounting firm. I think of us as a sort of a holistic CFO model. And so, it's kind of like what we talked about before, where I know we can keep clean books and, run a monthly close and, do basic reporting. That's kind of table stakes. I think though, when you start to layer in the whole ecosystem where we can translate that into insight through some value add work around bespoke management reporting or building out bespoke budgeting or cash flow forecasting based on the underlying data that we go to great lengths to control tightly, um, then it becomes kind of this order of magnitude of extra value for everybody that we work with. And I think the other thing is that, like I said before, we're not really a team of accountants. We're a team of real estate investment folks, and so we're able to understand kind of like the business and structures at the deal level in a way that I think allow us to operate probably more independently than a lot of other shops would. And I think, like I said before, we're able to really mitigate risk for our clients while we free up the time of the sponsor to go and build the business.
Yeah, I think it's a great approach. And it reminds me of doctors that have a specialty within a specialty where it may not be just a surgeon, but it's a surgeon that specializes in spines only or in arms only and whatnot, where they know the type of surgery and the type of procedure so intimately that they can essentially talk about this with their eyes closed, hopefully not do it with their eyes closed, but they have uh, deep enough understanding to be considered the experts in the fields. And the same applies to you guys. And hopefully the same applies to the CPAs, or at least that's one of my prerequisites when dealing with CPAs. I want them to be real estate savvy, and I want them to have significant enough of in real estate investor clientele to fully understand the intricacies as well as the um, tax advantages that are offered to CP to in real estate investors, because generalized CPAs don't have that deep level of knowledge. So to have that deep level of knowledge for someone in your field, I think is also absolutely critical and definitely a huge benefit, not just for you because you understand it better, but also for your clients that you serve.
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot to unpack there. So especially in the smaller segment of the private equity real estate market, we find when we first meet with a prospective client, we find out that they might be working with sort of like the solo CPA down on the corner.
Hmm.
And they feel like, well, that person has gotten me this far and it's been fine. But now I want to go out and, raise $10 million or whatever and start to really grow the business. And my message is usually, well, it's great that you want to scale, but you need to make sure that you have the right kind of team in place to do that.
Yep.
So you fairly quickly you start to get to the point where you want to be working with a CPA firm that has a team to ensure that they're properly resourced, and you want that team, like you said, to be real estate specific and maybe even have some level of private equity experience directly. And you also want a CPA firm that has the ability to do advisory work on the tax side, in addition to simply putting together the filings and the returns. As you grow and as structures kind of evolve, that advisory piece can become really important, and it can happen quickly. And if you're not sort of if you, the current CPA is not equipped to deliver that, that's the kind of thing where it's not a problem until it is.
Very true, very true. And what I found from my personal experience, a lot of CPAs could be good or great at compliance and know how to follow the rules. But when it comes to the strategy component, projecting into the future and advising their clients on taking advantage of the new tax laws and the big, beautiful bill that came to us this year, the opportunities are incredible, but the amount of knowledge and the advice provided is very limited, and it's usually limited to only those that have that strategic service and understand the business, regardless whether it's real estate or other business, that they need to fully understand the business that they're dealing with and all of the applicable deductions for that business. So that's big for sure.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And for these emerging sponsors who are looking to scale and really level up for the first time, it's also a matter of, what other vendors might you need to engage. So is your CPA going to advise you to go out and get that cost seg done? And if so, are they going to be able to refer you to somebody who can do that reliably and do a good job with it? That's a great example because there's a lot of variation in the cost seg business as well.
Agreed, agreed. Mike, it wouldn't be a good show if we didn't cover the technology, of course. So please share with our audience what kind of tools do you like to use, whether it's applications or AI tools or anything else, and what would you recommend to someone who is maybe starting out
Yeah.
or at the phase where they're growing to the next level, like you said, to the 10 million investment opportunities.
Sure. Well, let's start with AI because that's what everybody wants to talk about. On the accounting side, I think I think accounting so far has been sort of left behind by artificial intelligence. The tools that exist to really do accounting from an AI standpoint, I mean, they're very limited. And
Sure.
I hope that changes someday. That would be a huge benefit to us. It would be a benefit to our clients. I don't think it's the kind of thing where it makes uh, a business like ours irrelevant or folks like us irrelevant. I think that there's an opportunity to drive efficiency, but I don't think it's there yet in a way that can really be trusted to deliver accuracy. And obviously, with accounting, accuracy is everything. You can't
Yes.
you can't proceed forward unless you can 100% guarantee that. And that's the real problem with AI until you get to the point where somehow that what it's doing is rock solid. Uh, you're limited. So from that perspective, hopefully someday it'll get there. Right now, we're not seeing a whole lot. Um, and as far as technology beyond that goes, it's an interesting segment or industry because, if you're engaged in property level accounting, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, you're sort of beholden to the technology that's baked into your property accounting software that you select and implement.
True.
Um, we think there's a fairly large amount of variation there as well. There are some tools, I'm not going to name names, but I think there are some tools that do a much better job with kind of like modern day reporting. I think there are some tools that do a better job with allowing for the creation of data visuals if you're looking to build out reports through a property accounting system. And frankly, I think that we're still at the point, this sounds a little silly to say almost, but we're still at the point where the ability to work with a human on the support team of the property accounting software business still matters a lot. In fact, it matters for us still. Situations come up that you need the support. So again, that's another place where I think there's a lot of variation. So, we've kind of carved out this niche where we help clients to select and implement um, different technologies within the financial operations space. The number one being the accounting system. And so, it's the kind of thing where based on the client's use case, based on the budget, based on um, what how their business is structured. That's something we would sit down and kind of help them work through. But I think that's kind of where we're at still in the small and mid-sized segment of commercial real estate. On the budgeting side, I mean, there are some tools there. Most of them are either Excel add-on type of tools, or there are a couple of standalone budgeting or forecasting tools that can be helpful. Typically, those are most useful when you're doing corporate level budgeting or forecasting work,
Mm-hmm.
because they tend to integrate with QuickBooks rather than the property accounting system itself. I guess I guess to summarize, I would say that property accounting software is kind of like its own fiefdom. It's kind of a self-contained thing, and each vendor runs their own sort of structure there. Um, and the ability to incorporate third-party tools into that can be limited.
Makes sense. Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Mike. Mike, from a client standpoint, tell me what kind of size companies would benefit the most from your services?
Yeah. So, well, I'll give you a range first. I mean, our we're working with a couple of first time private equity sponsors right now, kind of at the small end of our business. They're in to get the platform stood up and set up, both on the investor relations side as well as the accounting side. They have an interest in sort of hitting the ground running, which I think is great.
Of course.
Obviously, budget can be a constraint at that point in time, at that stage. I get it. Um, so we do our best to sort of accommodate that and work with folks who we believe are in a position to grow the business the right way. And we want to work with people who understand the value that we bring, but also understand kind of the industry and how to get from where they are to where they want to be. So that's kind of the small end. At the large end, we have a couple of clients who are managing in the multiple hundreds of millions of dollars of equity on their platform. I think our largest client is right around 900 million in equity right now.
Wow.
So we kind of span that range. I would say that the typical client, is anywhere from, I don't know, probably 25-ish million in equity up to maybe 200-ish million.
Hmm.
Um, I think the work that we do across those clients, it doesn't differ tremendously, but I think it is a matter of our team being able to understand kind of the added complexity and the moving parts and pieces as our clients grow and scale up. So yeah, I mean that's basically where we're at in terms of size. Like I said earlier, in terms of structure, we're 100% focused on small and middle market private equity real estate. So that takes the form of true private equity shops. It also takes the form of family offices that have a meaningful focus on commercial real estate as an investment class. So that's really what we're looking to do. Um, I personally enjoy being in this niche tremendously. The others on our team do as well. And
Nice.
I think for our clients, it brings them some level of reassurance that we kind of get it.
Excellent. I love it. Mike, thank you. It's been a wonderful interview and a lot of insights for clients that are either looking to start the syndication business or to grow to the next level. Um, how can our audience reach out to you? What are the best ways?
Yeah, so well, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm there. Probably not active as much as I should be, but we're getting there. And then you can also visit us at lexcraftadvisors.com. Um, you can drop us an email at info@lexcraftadvisors.com, and I promise you that somebody will answer promptly.
And it will be human, not AI.
Absolutely.
I love it. And last question that we always ask, and I know we talked about this last time, but feel free to repeat your response. How do you like to give back to the community?
So, this is something I've thought about a good bit more recently. So let's see. I've been involved in. I'm a Rutgers alum. I've been involved in the Rutgers Center for Real Estate for some time now. I think that's a both a positive thing, but also a very relevant thing for what we're doing. Um, I have also am in the midst of doing some more planning to try to get in front of students a little bit more.
I love it.
Rather than just giving from a monetary perspective, I think there's an opportunity to give a little bit of time where it makes sense to do that, and I'm happy to do it.
It's amazing, yeah. And as a Rutgers alum and someone who's given back through career services, I can tell you that it's very rewarding to see the kids really get the point, understand where you're coming from, and then get what they're looking for. Where in my case, I coach them on either getting an interview or getting a job or internship, and it gives me tremendous satisfaction to see how happy the kids are when they're able to fine tune the resume and get the interviews or even get those internships at jobs which they did not think was possible beforehand. So yeah, it's a rewarding experience, and I'm happy to be part of that same network as you are. Mike, thank you so much. It's been an incredible interview, very, very insightful, and I hope our audience who are in business of syndications and funds will reach out to you for your help before it's too late. Thank you again.
Thank you, Alina. Always a pleasure. I enjoyed it.